Welcome to Epic Adventures. Today we have an American hero, retired Major Harold C. Brown Jr., telling his captivating story of receiving the Bronze Medal Star 40 years after his tour of duty in Vietnam. And here's your host, Rachel Brown.
Hi, welcome to Epic Adventures. Today is a great day for myself because I have the opportunity to interview somebody that I love dearly. Now, most young girls don't have this opportunity, but when you do have the opportunity to spend quality time with a parent, it's a wonderful thing because now I can actually interview him and ask questions that I really couldn't ask as being his daughter as opposed to interviewing him at this point. But I'm going to interview my father today because he means so much to me and he's done so many wonderful things within his lifetime and he continues to do wonderful things. I've always tried to interview trailblazers and those people that have broken glass ceilings and have done things that to me are just amazing. And I always want to show people, you know, how much I appreciate what they've done and I want to give them the recognition, not that they just deserve, but just for them doing what they do in their day-to-day lives. I think it's really, really important for us to, one, say thank you to them, acknowledge them, and show love. And when it happens to be a parent that has done these wonderful things, it's an honor for me to have that opportunity to sit down and speak with them. So at this time, I'm going to introduce my father, Harold Calise Brown Jr., to the world, or the part of the world that doesn't know him. So, Daddy.
Hello.
Hey.
How are you?
Hey, I'm good.
Wow, all of this, huh?
All of this and then some. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to interview you, Daddy, because you're important. Very important to me.
Okay.
You set such a high standard as far as how men should treat women. You set a standard as to what our work values should be, what our work ethics should look like. And most important, you taught us how to serve. And so those are really, really important characteristics for you to instill in your 4 children. And I know it was important for you to do so. And I know you started off as me being a little girl when you would say things like, you're brown, right? You're brown, right? Browns are not allowed to touch things or do things unless they make them better than they were before they touched them, okay? So Daddy's always instilled hard work in us. But what I want to talk to you about is when you joined the military, how young were you?
I joined the military when I was 18 years old.
Okay.
And I graduated from Bates at 18, Wally H. Bates from Annapolis High School, and joined the military 6 months later. Joined 15 January 59. And I stayed in until 89 and completed 30 years of military service.
Now, what made you want to join the military at the age of 17 or 18?
My mother had children, and each year, and it was just pushing me further from the table. So I decided the best thing for me to do is join the military and do my own family.
Okay.
And
And where was your first duty station?
And my first duty station was El Paso, Texas, and after I went to basic training down at Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, our first duty station was El Paso, Texas.
So at the age of 18, you joined the military?
And Air Force.
Air Force first, okay. And then once you joined the Air Force, you turned around and when did you get married?
I married a little lady on Matamora Street named Sally. We were both young, and her parents wanted to leave El Paso area, but I didn't want her to leave, so we got married on the 11th of September, 1961.
Okay.
I had to hock my guitar for $5 so I can pray the preacher, and I had no money because we get paid on the 1st and the 15th. And of course I got married on the 11th, so my money was gone by the 11th.
So you got married at a young age. How old were you?
I was 21 when I got married because my mother would not sign consent for me to get married. I had to
Okay.
wait till I was 21.
So you guys got married. You lived in El Paso, and then you had your first child in
Yeah.
El Paso.
Yes, we had Don in El Paso, and I forget the name. Oh, DeWitt Army Hospital
Okay.
in El Paso, and it was a great thing because we lived in an apartment, a 3-room apartment. We had a kitchen, a living room, and a dining room, I guess. Well,
Kitchen, living room, dining
they
room,
were
and
in a bedroom. Yeah, yeah. Trying to name the 4.
In the bathroom.
The bathroom count?
Yeah, so 5 rooms.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you got married,
Yep. And like
started your career, and then
continued my career.
continued your career.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, being in the military, of course, you got stationed almost every 3 years to a different location, to a different state.
Yes.
And so, having been married and then having children, because Mama had us almost like a year and a half apart from each other. So there's 4 of us.
Mm-hmm.
And so you would go to the duty stations prior to Mama getting there,
Mm-hmm.
and then get everything set up, and then we would come.
Yes.
Okay.
And-
Now, of course, when the best and favorite child was born, you weren't there. Okay. So you were in Okinawa,
Yes.
and so they sent you a newspaper clipping telling you that you had a daughter.
Well, not only Sally told me I had a daughter
Well,
too.
Mama,
even though it was placed in the
it's
newspaper.
placed in the
Yeah.
newspaper that you had a daughter.
Yeah, I used to belong to 7th operational group there in Okinawa, and that was after I had gotten out the Air Force and joined the Army because it was promotions too slow in the Air Force, and so that was the difference there. And being in Okinawa when my last child, being you, was born, that was my duty station for, let's see, for about 3 years or 2.5 years, and then we came back to the States after Okinawa.
Okay.
But I made E6 over there. That was a hard stripe, you call it, you know. Finally, I made top NCO then. Participated in a thing called an Ironman contest for physical fitness and everything because I was the best in my unit at that time.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just a whole lot of things that happened in Okinawa that Sally and I, we enjoyed being there.
Right.
We had
It's a
some
good
good
place.
good friends there.
So you also went to Vietnam. Was that your first war that you participated in?
Yeah, Vietnam was the first one, but like I say, there's a whole lot in between that Vietnam because when I went to Okinawa, I was an enlisted person. And then when I came back from Okinawa, I went to a place called OCS, Officers Candidate School, and I became a 2nd lieutenant at at Fort Belvoir, Virginia. And from there, I became a first lieutenant and then a captain. And then from there, I went to Vietnam in 1971. And I stayed in Vietnam for 11 months. And I came home Easter Day, Easter 1972. And so,
Now, the time and period that you were in Vietnam, how was that? I mean, you're in war,
well,
so you're leaving Mama
mm-hmm,
behind with 4 kids,
mm-hmm.
and then you're off not knowing whether or not you're gonna return. But your hopes and your prayers, and all of ours are, that you're gonna return. But how was it for you being the military soldier out there with that type of stress and pressure on yourself? One, to make sure that as an officer you're taking care of your military soldiers. At the same time, in the back of your head, you're like, I've got this family too that I'm praying that they're taken care of as well.
Well, to tell the truth about it, before I got the command, the officer in front of me, he was fragged. And so they needed somebody to go up there to.
What does frag mean, Daddy? Because everybody won't know that.
Oh, frag means somebody took a hand grenade and threw it at that person in their position. They're trying to kill them, and they needed somebody to take that officer's place, and nobody over there volunteered, and I needed command time so I could stay in the military. So me and God talked, and I ended up going up there to a place called Tuewa Vietnam, Air Force Base in Vietnam, and I commanded 2 companies there. And we were told that we were going to take these units and shut down. Shut down means that we're going to turn in all the equipment. All the personnel are going to rotate back to the United States. And I did a good job in that, and they gave me, out of 100 on an OER, Officers Efficiency Report, they gave me a 99 and recommended me for the Bronze Star Medal, which I didn't get until 40 years later because the war was so hectic, so I'm told. And I finally had to go to Washington, D.C. to get the Bronze Star Medal, which was 40 years after 1971.
And the Bronze Star says that you went above and beyond the call of duty. And that's what that award is given for? Are those people who exceed the expectation?
Yes, I was one of those who basically, I did what I was basically told, but I did what I felt was necessary for me to have a continued service. I wanted to stay in the military so I could make at least, colonel or something like that, colonel or general, whatever. But it wasn't written for that to happen to me. So after the war, my MOS, military occupational specialty, was plentiful by the time the war was over. And many of us lived. And so therefore, I was in the 1975 RIFT, release in force from the military. So I went back from being a captain to being an E6, which I was when I went to OCS. And so I continued service after being an E6 and made my E7 and made E8 before I got out. They would not let me go to Command Sergeant Major school because I'd be taking the allocation from an enlisted person who was not dual status like me. I was enlisted on active duty, but had a reserve commission as a major. And that was the difference in me staying in the military or me retiring. I wanted to stay on active duty. And I could support my family easily on active duty because I knew what the military wanted, and I made sure that I exceeded what the military wanted. And so that was my military life.
So do you know about how many different states that you went to in the military? How many?
Well, I've been all the way, I've been to California, I've been to Tule, Greenland, I've been to Okinawa, Vietnam, Korea, Germany for 13 years. And so I've had assignments almost everywhere.
And how was it raising kids and you being in the military?
Well, I had a strong wife. Sally was a war baby anyway, with her daddy being, in the military. So she basically knew what was necessary. And of course, me being a personnel specialist before I got the commission, we knew all about the paperwork, and we got those things accomplished prior, and so she was knowledgeable, she was knowledgeable about a lot of things in the military that most women would not have known if they hadn't been in the military. So, and she raised you guys pretty good as far as I'm concerned, because all of y'all left the house at 18 or before. Or before we got you out of there, so
that was the objective.
That was the objective, to raise them well, and Sally did a good job in doing so. And
you played a major part in that. You played a major part in raising us as well. And you had 3 daughters,
3
3
girls.
beautiful daughters.
Yeah.
And then you had 1 son
Yeah, one.
that joined the Air Force too. Following behind your footsteps. He
Yep.
joined the Air Force, and then he decided, no, that's enough of this.
Yeah, he wanted to get his obligation out of the way because back in those days, it was right after he joined right after the draft was over. So that was the difference. Back in our day, we used to get drafted. In fact, I was one of the guys who had already served 4 years or 3.5 years in the Air Force, came home and got draft notices for the for the Army. And and they, after I went to the post office where everybody enlisted or whatever, they corrected the paperwork to see that I had already served. And it's just, admin is something else. It's
Military administration.
military. It's something else. But again,
So do you have any regrets about having joined the military? Or do you think that you would have done something differently?
no regrets. Let me say it like that. I'm blessed to be physically in good shape. The difference is, you have West Point officers, you got ROTC officers, and then you have an enlisted officer like I was, who through OCS. And each one of these guys are taught differently. One is taught in college, the other one is taught in the major school called West Point. They do things by the book. Everything doesn't work by the book for human beings because you got to be able to adjust, and the books don't show the adjustments that you have to make.
Right.
And these guys, by trying to do it by the book, they are offensive. And if you got 2 soldiers that have done something, and you treat one differently than you do the other, after you've done a background investigation and you find out, hey, both of them are just as guilty because they were doing the same thing at the same time with the same people, and you treat one different, well, that word gets out to the rest of the guys and they resent it, and
It creates friction. on the inside.
there's your friction. And once you have a situation that the NCOs refuse to try to control, then the officers will have to jump in there and control it. And when they don't, then you have to have things like me go up there to replace this guy to try to quell the situation. And when you do, you don't get pats on the back. It's just, it's just the way the world was back then and there. And of course, everybody's
Experience.
wanting to go home. They want to go home. Hey, protect me so I can go home. I only want to spend 365 days here so I can get a chance to go back to my family,
Right.
And, tensions. That's basically it. That's what you do.
Right.
And then you have to go through that same deceased individual's belongings and sort out the good from the bad, and then you itemize everything, and then you get it verified by a witness saying that these items are in fact here, and then the things that are distasteful,
Right.
they're gone, and
Discarded.
you sort of you account for it, but it's
So
discarded.
the military knows, but the family never knows.
True.
Okay.
When that's it. Well, like I say, there's a lot of things that happen in the military that the civilians will never know how it actually is. Unless you're actually there in battle, you can look at television all day long, but you won't find the truth. You won't find all the truth there, let me say it like that. Because, everybody wants the CYA so that they can get the next rank or they can protect themselves and don't have a bad record. You don't want this kind of stuff on your record. The guy who I basically saved, he was a lieutenant colonel, but before he got out the military, he was a lieutenant general. And so by me going up there to Tuiwa, taking over the base, it stopped him from having anything bad about his command because,
Right.
he didn't need that bad
Mark against
information in his record.
it. Right.
And he's the guy who promised me the Bronze Star Medal, but
But it didn't happen.
it didn't happen. But again, that's Vietnam. That's
Yeah.
that's
Well,
the way.
thing about it is, it didn't happen when it should have happened, but it happened, even though it happened 40 years later. The blessing is that you were alive to get it.
Thank you.
And then the other blessing is that you went to Washington, D.C. and you received it.
That's
you
it. Yes.
So, because I was there, I saw it. And it was a wonderful thing. I mean, it was a wonderful thing for us to see you receive it, though, Dad.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
because it's like, all of us have our stories about how great we were, high school, college, da-da-da-da. You know, we've got those stories, but you're, as a parent, like, we don't see you. Like, we saw you as a little kid. Like, I could see you playing softball and baseball and basketball and all this stuff as a child, but it doesn't quite mean the same. Or watching you bowl, you know, all I knew was that you were the best in everything that you did. but you know, it's different when you're an adult and then you see your father or your mother get honored for something that they did, a major accomplishment. So I think it was great for us to actually witness that, because as a little military dependents, our kisses goodbye meant that we may or may not see you again.
That's right.
You know, and people don't really understand that. They think it's some type of game where it's just, oh, that's just the way that it is, but it's not. It's like to know that, hey, your father went to the field, he may or may not come back when he goes even to the field, let alone when he goes to war. You know, or when, you know, you've got all this family stability going on and now your family gets stationed to another location and it creates instability in the household because dad is gone. You know, so people don't realize, like,
So
I
y'all-
think a lot of people don't understand what it's like to be a military dependent or a person that's in the military, and how much pride there is in that, because you're not just doing it for your own family. You're doing it for democracy.
That's
You're
it.
doing it for the school teachers and the,
Well-
you know, doctors and the
Well-
lawyers and those people that are, you know, they're not built to do those things.
Yeah.
You know, and people sometimes take those things for granted. And when we look at these soldiers that are, you know, in Vietnam and everything, and they're homeless now, or they're not being taken care of, and it's not up to the state to take care of the individuals. It's not. It's up to the individual people within the state to do it, because it doesn't take the state to tell me to give somebody that's homeless money or to give them food. You know, if they say, if you see it, say something about it. Well, if you see it, do something about it. No, nobody's stopping anybody from doing something about it. Like, you don't have to get all the praise and all these things that people look for in order to do good by somebody. You
Well,
know?
I've always had duty, honor, country. I believe in that. I still believe in that, and I will fight you today about duty, honor, country. It hurts my feelings when I see these guys wearing our medals and this, that, and the other, and they haven't even put any time in the military at all. I mean, they can go by the stories that they see on television, and then, oh, they can wear all this good stuff, and the punishment is not bad. The punishment is not bad on those individuals.
So basically, again, so your motto still is
Duty, honor,
duty, honor, and
country.
country.
Yeah, yep.
And you
still.
stand by that. I mean, you stand by that, and you raised us with that same
That's right.
motto,
That's right.
and you ran our family based on that.
That's right. And we're still doing.
And we're still doing
We're
that.
still
To the
doing it.
grandkids
That's
and the
right.
great-grandkids.
That's right.
So if there was a military soldier, if one of your grandsons decided they want to join the military, what would be your conversation with that grandson?
Well, already we see Trey. As much as I love Trey and everything else, Trey was taught real well what being in the military was all about. He was so proud when he graduated. Sal and I went down there to his graduation and everything else, and all of a sudden we find out that the tactical officers, the ones who trained, they loved him and they were crazy about him and everything else. And he even volunteered to go overseas in lieu of another person's going overseas to Iraq and this, that, and the other.
Went on behalf of somebody else.
And he-
That's Vernon Travis
Yeah,
Jr.
yeah. And when Trey came back home and everything else, he was a different person. And people talk about PTSD, and nobody wants to do anything about PTSD back then.
Right.
Now they know that it exists. People are getting paid for it and everything else, but Trey wasn't fortunate enough to be one of those, and so
Trey came back addicted to Xanax.
yeah, and other stuff.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he raised his baby as best he could and everything else. And of course, everything didn't work out well for him,
Right.
even though we wanted to.
Right.
And things will get better
And
for him
things
soon.
will get better.
So
Exactly.
it will. This too shall pass. That's
So
the way
what
that
would you
works.
say to another grandson
Well,
if they wanted to join?
as much as I love your boys, I felt if as young as he was, he could have joined and he'd had his time in the military and he'd be able to be at least E5 or E6 right now if he had joined, and all of these babies and everything else would have still been able to be encompassed in the military, and we'll take care of ours once because that.
So would you recommend?
Oh yes.
Do you recommend that young men join the military?
Sally and I talk about we sure need to draft back. We don't have the guys don't even take their hats off for the when they go to a ball game. They don't take their hats off for the national anthem. I mean, they don't know the words. They don't know nothing. So it's just one of those things. Yes, I recommend the military for any young man who wants to get experience in life on his own. In other words, one way to break your ties with your parents, get in the military, and that would straighten you out, and you'd learn discipline, you'd learn how to follow orders, you'd learn a trade, you'd have something that you can take when you get out and utilize it to make money the rest of your life. That's what the military is all about in most cases.
Right.
So
that would be your recommendation.
Yeah, most kids, if their parents would let them, should at least have some military experience.
Right.
Some, at least.
So is there anything that you would have done differently based on the circumstances that you were in throughout your military career? And since you retired, because you retired back in '89, that's a long time ago. And since you retired, is there anything that you would have changed, or are you perfectly content with your life, the way that things worked out for you?
I am very satisfied to have joined the military, received military benefits the rest of my natural life. As long as I don't commit a felony,
Right.
I'm going to get paid as long as I'm breathing. Uncle Sam is taking care of me while in. He's taking care of me while I'm retired and out. I have no regrets over any of the military experiences that I've had. If I really wanted to do something, I could have, because my wife says at 48, that's too young to retire. Well, I showed her that it ain't.
Too early.
I retired because I had to listen to somebody every day for 30 years. Now I can do what I want to do, how I want to do it, when I want to do it, I'm not restrained, or I don't have any regrets about being free. I am actually free now. I didn't experience freedom for a long time in the military. Yes, sir, 3 bags full, whatever, jump, how high, things. It was like that. And so we had good officers, and we had good NCOs, and we had good enlisted personnel. But the hardship was that you had to have somebody you had to listen to, and that was every day. Right. I mean, you guys be out picnicking, having a good time. Daddy Brown be pulling duty out there. I'm walking around a NATO site with ammunition and stuff, making sure that nobody breaks in and things like that, freezing everything, and it's just different doing something and then finding out people don't appreciate what you've done, and you can explain, you explain it. In fact, there were some times in which I used to pull KP, kitchen patrol. You're cleaning pots and pans and things like that. Used to do that so that I can make sure I had something to eat when I used to be a Spec 4. When I was young and didn't have the money and this, that, and the other, I used to pull duty for other soldiers so I can have money to make my family. And people don't understand, in the military, you just don't have a whole lot of everything. And it's not a whole lot of money for what you have to do.
So in your retirement phase, you retired in '89. Some of your hobbies, I know you've always loved bowling. You've always loved bowling, and you've always been great at bowling, and nobody can still beat you in bowling.
Or horseshoes.
Or horseshoes. Yes, I tried that. We went to Maryland, and I tried that, and wasn't able to beat you in horseshoes either. And trains. That's been your biggest thing.
Yes.
So what got you interested really into the trains? Because you've got the most beautiful train set, and it's so meticulously done. And every time I come home or come to visit, you've always done something new or something different, or added something or subtracted something. But what got you wanting to? I don't want to use the word play with trains, because it's not really playing with them. It's like, how'd you get that hobby?
Well, the hobby was a hobby. After 1971, I was a second lieutenant, and we were in Fürth, Germany. That's where trains were located and everything else, and so I bought my first set there. And the reason why I have trains now is because I couldn't have them when I was younger. When you got 5 kids in the family, the oldest boy very seldom gets anything, and then when he does get something, he has to make sure he doesn't wear those pants out, because he got to pass them down to the next kid, things like that. So now that I got a chance to be free and do what I want to do with my money and Sally, I bought what I wanted to buy, and I have it, and I sort of have maintained it since that period, and it's a way to get away from reality. Reality is when you're in the house doing this, that, and the other. When you're out there with the trains, you can move your people where you want to move them. You can paint them the color you want them to be. Everybody doesn't have to be a porter, And so the thing about the trains, you can move them the way you want to move them and do them the way that you want.
Your own little life within your little train thing, because it's Brownstown.
That's right.
So that's your town. You got all your different kind of workers, your lumber people, folks that work at McDonald's are there. I mean, you've got
and Papados open. I got all my.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
It's the fun. That's the fun part about reality. Reality. And as long as you got an imagination, and you got God, you got it made. That's for me. I don't need nothing else. Look at that. So, and I'm happy that way.
Awesome.
And I got a good wife too.
Yeah, you do. You do. She's called my mother, and she's the backbone. She's the backbone of the family, and she takes care of all of us, and always has. And she's looking at the interview right now, critiquing everything that we're doing. But that's my mama. That's your wife. But is there anything that you would like to share with anybody, or anything that you would like to, anything that you would like to say?
Yeah, whatever you do in this lifetime, remember it's your life, and it only takes you to do what you want to do in this lifetime, as long as you're not offensive to anybody else. As long as you do that, life is easy. I mean, I think the Lord has blessed us and our family immensely, and all you have to do is ask Him, and He'll give it to you. It might not be right away, but eventually, if you ask, you will receive. And just keep believing. Just keep believing. He's coming back, and I do believe that. Don't know when, don't know how, but I want to be ready. And so,
Wonderful.
Yep.
Well, I have thoroughly enjoyed interviewing you and talking to you and hanging out, of course, as always. But it's good to hear your story in your words, and I am enjoying the wisdom that you've imparted on me all of my life. I am going to fail numerous times. I can tell you now. But you've made me a very strong woman. You've made it hard for other people, because we blame everything on you. It's being strong,
Nothing wrong with that.
Strong women. I have to blame my parents, because I'm like, they raised strong women and strong men. There's an expectation. So it's kind of like when they say always do things as though God is watching and you're doing them for God. Well, it's God and our parents. You know, it's like do it as though they are watching everything that you do because it's important. You know, and we definitely want to leave that legacy to the grandkids and the great grandkids. You know, but like I said, all these things wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the sacrifices that you and Mama made. You know, and so it's appreciated. And so I get to say thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Very
Welcome.
much in front of the world. Thank you so very much for being who you are, how you are, and whose you are.
Okay.
So
Amen.
I love you with all my heart,
Love you.
and I know you do. I'm the best thing ever happened. But I love you.
My only.
But thank you for joining us today. And again, if you've never had the opportunity to sit down with your parents and talk about their stories and that type of thing, please take the time to spend time with your family and find out their stories as youth, because everybody's getting a little bit older, and a lot of times these stories don't get told. They don't get preserved for our grandchildren. A lot of times you meet people on the street, you don't know really who they are, what they've done, or how what they've done has impacted your life without you knowing. So always be grateful, always be thankful, and always remember that God loves you and we do too. So thank you so much.
Amen. Thank you.